The Korean Mafia boss froze when he saw his new black maid training his son. Like a warrior, Amara Okonkwo has 3 seconds to decide. Drop the practice sword and blow her cover, or let the 8-year-old boy continue the strike sequence that will absolutely shatter the expensive Ming vase behind him. The security cameras don't cover this corner of the mansion's private garden. She's checked 17 times in the past 6 weeks, but he is watching. Kang Min-ho, the man who hired her 42 days ago, thinking she was just another foreign domestic worker, desperate for employment in Seoul. The man whose file she'd memorized in a Nairobi safe house 3 months ago. Age 36, estimated net worth $847 million. Suspected head of the Kong crime family. 3 assassination attempts survived. Wife dead 4 years. Son traumatized into selective mutism. The man who currently stands frozen in the mansion's garden doorway. A forgotten cup of morning coffee cooling in his hand. His obsidian eyes locked on the way she's guiding his son through a Krav Maga disarming technique that would make Israeli commandos nod with approval. Ji-hoon, the boy everyone said would never speak again, is grinning. Actually grinning. His small hands gripping the practice blade with a confidence that didn't exist yesterday. His feet planted in the exact stance Amara learned in her 2nd year with Kenyan Special Forces. Again, Amara says in Korean, her accent deliberately thickened to match her cover story. Remember, turn the wrist, don't pull. Their own force becomes your weapon. The boy moves. Perfect execution. The practice sword arcs through morning air that smells of jasmine and secrets, and Kang Min-ho's coffee cup hits the stone pathway with a crash that sounds like the end of everything. Would you keep your secret or save the child you've come to love? Drop a comment if you're already hooked. Amara hadn't planned to die in Mogadishu. Then again, nobody ever does. The operation was supposed to be simple. Extract the Chinese diplomat's daughter, deliver her to the UN compound, collect the payment that would finally clear her family's debt. 12 years in Kenyan intelligence, 5 with the Special Operations Group, 16 successful extractions. She'd earned the right to think of herself as invincible. She was wrong. The ambush came at 03:47 hours, 3 blocks from the safe zone, 8 vehicles, 47 armed operatives, RPGs that turned the night into fire. Her 4-person team died in the first 90 seconds. The girl died in her arms, bleeding from a wound Amara couldn't close, whispering something in Mandarin that sounded like an apology. Later, in a Turkish hospital with 17 stitches and a cracked rib, Amara learned the truth. The extraction was never about rescue. The Chinese diplomat was moving weapons. The girl was the payment, and someone in Kenyan intelligence had sold them all for $200,000 and a new identity. The same someone who now worked for the Sarasi Syndicate, an international weapons trafficking network with roots in 6 continents, contacts in 12 governments, and a very specific policy about loose ends. Amara Okonkwo, decorated officer and failed operative, was a loose end with her face on a kill list. She'd run smart, burned her passport, used 3 different smuggling routes, traded her military contacts for civilian invisibility. Seoul was supposed to be random, a city large enough to disappear in, foreign enough that the syndicate's usual networks wouldn't look twice at a Kenyan woman working domestic jobs. Then she'd seen the posting. Household staff needed, single father, confidentiality required, compensation generous. The address belonged to Kang Min-ho, and Kang Min-ho, according to the intelligence she'd gathered from very expensive sources, had connections to every shadow organization in Asia, including the ones that dealt in information about people like her. It was the worst possible choice, which made it perfect. Who would think to look for a fugitive intelligence operative in a Korean mafia lord's mansion, wearing an apron and teaching his traumatized son how to fight? Apparently, she was about to find out. The first 4 weeks were pure performance art. Amara played her role flawlessly. The grateful immigrant, slightly clumsy with Korean social customs, overwhelmed by the mansion's luxury, infinitely patient with the silent boy who watched her with eyes older than his 8 years. She learned which housekeepers gossiped, which bodyguards rotated shifts, where the security blind spots existed. She memorized exit routes, cataloged weapons, identified which of Kang Min-ho's business associates carried concealed firearms versus who relied on hired muscle, and she watched the man himself. Kang Min-ho moved through his world like a blade through water, graceful, purposeful, leaving disturbance in his wake. He spoke 3 languages fluently. He played violin at midnight when he thought the household was asleep. He reviewed his son's therapy reports every evening, his expression carefully neutral, his knuckles white on the pages. The wife, Ji-hoon's mother, had died in a car bombing meant for Min-ho. The boy had been in the vehicle. He'd stopped speaking the day they buried her. He needs routine, the child psychologist had said during a session Amara had accidentally overheard while cleaning the hallway. Structure, safety, time. Don't push for words. Let him communicate however he can. So the household tiptoed around Ji-hoon like he was made of glass. The tutors whispered. The staff exchanged anxious glances when he appeared. Even Min-ho, this man who commanded criminal empires, became hesitant around his own son, afraid of breaking something already shattered. It made Amara furious. "You know what your problem is?" she'd said to Ji-hoon on her 3rd day, in Swahili, because she knew he wouldn't understand the words but would hear the tone. The boy was sitting in the garden, staring at nothing, while expensive toys gathered dust around him. "Everyone treats you like you're a victim, but you're not. You're a survivor, and survivors don't sit still." She'd started small, physical games that looked innocent, catching, climbing, balancing, teaching him to observe details, bird species, weather patterns, the way shadows moved across the garden as hours passed. Then came the real work, yoga for body awareness, breathing techniques for emotional regulation, basic martial arts forms disguised as fun exercises. Ji-hoon never spoke, but he moved. And movement, Amara knew from her own trauma, was the beginning of healing. Min-ho noticed. She'd catch him watching from windows, standing in doorways, his expression unreadable. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Cho, warned her, "Master Kang doesn't like changes in his son's routine." But Min-ho said nothing, and Ji-hoon started smiling. By week 5, the boy was following Amara everywhere, communicating through gestures and expressions she'd learned to read like language. By week 6, he was sleeping through the night without screaming. The therapist called it remarkable progress. Amara called it teaching a child that his body was a tool, not a trap. "You're good with him," Min-ho said one evening, appearing so silently in the kitchen that Amara's training almost made her throw the knife she was using to cut vegetables. She turned, bowed slightly, the respectful gesture she'd practiced. "Ji-hoon Si is a good boy, smart. He trusts you." Min-ho's Korean was precise, each word weighted. "In 8 months, he's trusted no one except me. Why you?" Dangerous question. Amara kept her expression humble, confused. "I don't understand. I just play with him." "You teach him." Min-ho stepped closer, and Amara's tactical awareness cataloged everything. The gun under his left arm, the knife sheath at his ankle, the way he moved with a fighter's balance, the breathing exercises, the observation games. That's not playing, that's training. Her pulse didn't change. Years of fieldwork ensured that. "I had brothers," she said, mixing truth with lies the way she'd been taught. "In Kenya, they were active boys. I learned to keep them busy." "Had?" Min-ho's eyes, dark, intelligent, missing nothing, fixed on her face. "They died." "True. Different circumstances, but true. Tribal conflicts. I came here for new start." Silence stretched between them like wire. Then Min-ho nodded once. "Continue what you're doing. He's better." He left. Amara's hands didn't shake until 5 minutes later, alone in her room, checking the burner phone that never rang. The syndicate was still looking. Her contact in Johannesburg had sent 3 words: getting closer. Move? She'd replied, not yet, because Jihoon had smiled at her that morning, a real smile, and signed thank you in the gesture language they'd developed together. And because Kang Min-ho's case file had a gap, 6 months where his location was unknown, his activities untraced, that her intelligence instincts said was important. She was supposed to be hiding. Instead, she was getting curious. That's when everything went to hell. It started with the gardener. Amara noticed him on a Tuesday. New hire, mid-40s, Vietnamese identification, perfect references. Too perfect. She'd seen enough cover legends to recognize the telltale smoothness of a manufactured history. He didn't move like a gardener. He positioned himself for maximum visibility of the mansion's entry points, and he watched Jihoon with the kind of professional assessment that made her blood cold. She said nothing, did nothing, just watched back. 2 days later, a delivery driver lingered too long. 3 days after that, a lost tourist took photographs of the mansion's perimeter with a phone held at exactly the wrong angle for casual photography. The syndicate had found her. No, not just found. They were planning something. You don't deploy a reconnaissance team for a simple assassination. You do it when you need leverage, information, or... Her breath stopped. They were going to take Jihoon. It made horrific sense grab the boy, force Min-ho's cooperation in exchange for his son's life, eliminate the witness they actually cared about, Amara, and acquire a powerful criminal contact in the process. Efficient, brutal, exactly the syndicate style. She had 48 hours, maybe less. Jihoon, she said that afternoon, keeping her voice light while her mind calculated angles and responses. Want to learn something new? The boy nodded eagerly. They were in the garden, their usual spot, where Jasmine covered chain link and nobody thought to look for danger. This is a game called What If? She crouched to his level. What if someone you don't know tries to take you away? Show me what you'd do. Jihoon's expression shifted. Uncertain, scared. Hey, she touched his shoulder gently. This is practice, like the other exercises. Your appa wants you safe, right? So we practice safety. Try for me. Hesitantly, the boy mimed pulling away, running. Good start, but what if they're stronger? She demonstrated a simple wrist release, then a palm strike to create distance. Don't fight to win. Fight to escape. Always escape. Find Appa or me or Mrs. Cho. Understand? Jihoon nodded. They practiced for an hour. Practical techniques disguised as games that would give an 8-year-old a chance. She prayed he'd never need them. That evening, she requested a meeting with Kang Min-ho. The housekeeper looked shocked. Staff didn't request meetings, but delivered the message. At 9 p.m., Amara was summoned to his study. The room smelled of leather, old books, and gun oil. Min-ho sat behind a desk that probably cost more than her entire year's salary, his expression neutral. You wanted to see me? No honorifics, no politeness, just directness. Amara respected that. Security concern, she said in English, dropping the heavy accent. I've noticed surveillance on the property. 3 operatives, possibly more. They're watching Jihoon. Min-ho's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes, a sharpening, a focusing. Your Korean suddenly improved. My cover suddenly became irrelevant. She met his gaze directly, violating every cultural protocol she'd been maintaining. You can interrogate me later about why a maid speaks 5 languages and recognizes hostile surveillance. Right now, you need to know your son is a target. Who? One word carrying the weight of murder. I don't know. Lie. But they're professional. Military-grade reconnaissance. This isn't a rival gang. This is international. Min-ho stood slowly, his hand drifting toward the desk drawer where Amara knew he kept a loaded Glock 19. How does a Kenyan domestic worker identify international operatives? The same way a legitimate businessman recognizes when he's being watched by someone who knows what they're doing. She kept her hands visible, non-threatening. "We can debate my credentials after you secure your son." For 10 seconds, he studied her. Then he pulled out his phone, rapid-fire Korean into the speaker. "Seungri, full security lockdown. Ji-hoon doesn't leave the inner house. Rotate all exterior guards. Run background checks on every hire from the last month. Now." He ended the call. "Talk. All of it. Your new gardener is Vietnamese intelligence or ex-military. Your Wednesday delivery driver has done 3 passes in 4 days. There's a listening post in the apartment building north of here. I tracked signal interception equipment yesterday. Someone wants access to this household and they're being patient about it." "How do you know this?" "Because it's what I'd do." The truth, finally. Partial truth, anyway. And because I've been on both sides of operations like this. Minho drew the gun, didn't point it at her, just held it, present, ready. "Who are you?" "Someone who spent 6 weeks caring about your son." Also true, surprisingly, devastatingly true. And who has approximately 24 hours before people very interested in killing me use him to do it. The study door burst open. Seungri, Minho's head of security, former ROK Army, covered in scars and judgment, entered with 4 armed men. "Sir, we've got movement on the north perimeter. 2 vehicles, unknown occupants." Amara's blood iced over. "They're early. They weren't supposed to move until..." Glass exploded. The study window shattered inward. Smoke grenade. Flashbang. The professional's calling card. Her body moved before thought. Tackle Minho behind the desk, cover his head, count the seconds. 1, 2, bang! Concussive force that would have disoriented anyone without training. Amara was already moving. Grabbed the Glock from Minho's hand, returned fire through the smoke, aiming for the window frame. "Where's Ji-hoon?" "Inner house, 2nd floor." Minho was recovering fast, pulling a backup piece from his ankle. Not his first firefight. "They'll breach there first." Amara's training overrode everything else. "Seungri, south and east exits now. They'll funnel us toward the garden. Minho..." "You don't give me orders," he snarled. "Then give yourself this one. Get to your son before they do." That moved him. They ran. The mansion transformed into a combat zone. Gunfire erupted from 3 directions. Minho's security team, well-trained but defensive-minded, held positions. The attackers moved like water, suppressing fire, advance, regroup, military precision, syndicate tactics. Amara had watched them used in 4 countries. "2nd floor!" Minho took stairs 3 at a time. Amara covered their 6, dropping 2 attackers with center mass shots that her muscle memory executed perfectly. Ji-hoon's door was closed, locked from inside. Good boy, he'd remembered the protocols. Minho had keys, but before he could use them, the hallway window exploded. Rope descent, fast rope insertion. 2 operatives, full tactical gear, moving toward them with the efficiency of professionals who'd done this 100 times. Amara put herself between them and Minho. "Get Ji-hoon. Go." "You... go!" She engaged. The first operative had 40 pounds and 6 inches on her. Didn't matter. She went low, destroyed his knee with a strike that ended careers, used his falling body weight to strip his rifle, and put 3 rounds into the second operative before he could adjust his aim. Behind her, Minho breached his own son's door. Ahead of her, 4 more operatives appeared at the hallway's end. This was how it ended then. Amara had always known she'd die on a mission, just thought it would be her own. She smiled, raised the rifle, prepared to sell her life expensively. Then Kang Minho stepped up beside her, his expensive suit torn, his face bloody from a cut above his eye, a submachine gun in his hands that he clearly knew how to use. "Nobody," he said quietly in English, "touches my son." They fought together, and the universe shifted. The battle lasted 14 minutes. Amara counted because counting kept you tactical, kept you present, kept you from noticing that you were fighting beside a man who moved like he'd trained with the same special operations units that had shaped you. When the last attacker retreated, wounded, dragging a companion, the mansion looked like a war zone. Broken glass, bullet holes, blood on expensive carpets. 6 of Minho's men injured, 2 seriously. None dead. The attackers had left 3 bodies behind. Amara cleared them professionally. Biometrics, equipment check, identification. All sanitized. No forensic trail. Syndicate protocol. "Jihoon?" she asked, keeping her voice steady despite the adrenaline crash threatening her knees. "Safe. Mrs. Cho has him in the panic room." Minho was field dressing a wound on his security chief's shoulder. His movements practiced. "You want to tell me why international operatives just attacked my home? Because I'm here." "Explain." So she did. Not everything. Not the specifics of her last mission, not the names of her dead team members, not the girl who'd bled out in her arms, but enough. The syndicate, the kill list, the choice to hide in plain sight. "You used my household as cover." Minho's voice was cold, controlled, dangerous. "Yes." "Brought this to my door." "Yes." "Put my son at risk." "Yes." She met his eyes. "And I've spent 6 weeks teaching him how to fight back, how to be strong, how to trust himself. I've given him tools your therapists never could. So yes, I used you, and yes, I brought danger. But I also gave him his voice back. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to." Amara's control snapped. "You want words? Words are easy. Your son communicates more with his eyes and hands than most people do with monologues. He's not broken, Kang Minho. He's adapting. And instead of celebrating that, you're angry because I'm not the convenient, safe servant you thought you hired." Silence. Minho stared at her, his expression unreadable. Then, "You took 3 hostiles down, professional eliminations. Special Operations Group, Kenyan Defense Forces, 12 years. The way you cleared those bodies, intel training. National Intelligence Service, 5 years. You're not just running, you're hunting." It wasn't a question. Amara's laugh was bitter. "No, I'm surviving. There's a difference." "What do they want?" "Me dead. Anyone who helped me dead. Complete information sanitization." "Why?" "Because I know names. Faces. Financial routing numbers for weapons sales that fund terrorist organizations across 3 continents. Because I was the best at my job until someone decided I was worth more dead than active." She gestured at the carnage around them. "This is what happens when you become inconvenient to powerful people." Minho was quiet for a long moment. Then, "The syndicate has Korean contacts, Seoul networks. I know, they'll come again, harder. He's a child who's been through hell and is finally healing." Her voice cracked. "You want me gone? Fine. I'll disappear tonight. But know that I'm the reason he smiles now. I'm the reason he sleeps. I'm the reason he believes his body can be strong instead of just a thing that bad events happen to. You erase me. You erase his progress. You're manipulating me. I'm telling you the truth." Minho studied her for an eternal moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call in rapid Korean. When he hung up, his expression had shifted, still hard, but calculating. "I just activated some resources, old contacts, expensive favors. By morning, I'll have a full workup on every syndicate operation in Asia, their personnel files, their financial structures." He stepped closer. "I have money, influence, and a network that spans this entire region. The syndicate might be international, but so am I. And unlike you, I don't have to hide." Amara blinked. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you helped my son when no one else could. You protected him tonight when you could have run." His eyes were obsidian, but something warmer moved in their depths. "I'm saying I don't abandon people who are loyal to my family. This isn't your fight. They attacked my home, threatened my son, killed 3 of my men. His smile was sharp, dangerous, absolutely terrifying. It's my fight now. You don't understand who they are, and you don't understand who I am. He moved closer, invading her space deliberately. My grandfather built this organization from nothing. My father expanded it into 12 countries. I've tripled our reach, legitimized 60% of our operations, and earned the respect of every criminal network from Vladivostok to Jakarta. The syndicate might be dangerous, Amara Okonkwo, but so am I. She should argue, should refuse, should protect him from the consequences of harboring a fugitive. Instead, she whispered, "Why?" "Because Jihoon laughs when you're around, because you fight like a demon and teach him like a patient elder, because when the bullets started flying, you put yourself between him and danger without thinking." Minho's hand, calloused, scarred, careful, touched her face. "And because I've spent 6 weeks trying to figure out why my new maid moved like a soldier and thought like an operative, and now that I know, I want to keep you. I'm not a possession. No, you're a partner, if you'll agree." The proposal was insane, impossible, tactically stupid. Amara found herself nodding anyway. Good. Minho stepped back, professional again. "Then we plan. My intelligence contacts will track syndicate movements. Your tactical knowledge will help us predict their next move. We fortify this location or relocate. Your assessment needed there. And we end this threat permanently. You're talking about going to war with an international weapons trafficking network. I've gone to war with worse. At least this time, I have proper motivation." He almost smiled. My son's smile. That's worth burning the world for. Something in Amara's chest, locked down since Mogadishu, cracked open. He really does smile now, doesn't he? Because of you. Because he's strong. I just showed him he was allowed to be. Minho's expression softened impossibly. Then show me too. Show me how someone like you fights back against impossible odds. Teach me your warrior's way. I'm not a warrior. I'm just someone who refused to die. Same thing. Maybe it was. Maybe surviving was its own form of combat. Maybe teaching a traumatized boy to be strong was more powerful than any mission she'd run with Kenyan intelligence. Maybe she'd found something worth fighting for that wasn't just escape. "Okay," Amara said. "Let's end this." They shook hands. It felt like a covenant. Upstairs, Jihoon emerged from the panic room with Mrs. Cho. The boy's eyes were wide, frightened, but when he saw Amara, he ran to her. No hesitation, pure trust. She caught him, held him close, felt his small heart racing against her chest. "You're safe," she whispered in English, Korean, and finally Swahili, the language of promises. "I've got you. Appa's got you. You're safe." Over Jihoon's head, her eyes met Minho's, and in that moment she understood. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about family, chosen family forged in combat and trust, and the quiet revolution of a child's healing. The syndicate wanted her dead. They'd have to go through all of them first. The battle. When warriors rise, the syndicate made their move 72 hours later. In those 3 days, Minho's network transformed from criminal enterprise into military operation. Amara found herself working with intelligence specialists who'd trained with the NIS, hackers who'd defected from North Korean cyber units, and security contractors who made her special forces background look gentle. The man she'd thought was a mafia boss turned out to be so much more. "My father was a gangster," Minho explained one night, reviewing defensive positions while Jihoon slept upstairs. "I'm a businessman who inherited a complicated legacy. 60% of our operations are legitimate. Shipping, real estate, technology investment. The other 40%, he shrugged. "Let's say I facilitate transactions for people who can't use traditional banking. You're a broker. I'm a neutral party. I don't deal weapons or drugs. I connect buyers and sellers, take a percentage, ensure transactions happen safely." His smile was grim. which means I have contacts everywhere, including inside organizations like the syndicate. You have people inside? Hope flickered. 1. Deep cover. He reports that the syndicate is escalating. You humiliated them at my mansion. They're sending a full tactical team, 12 operatives, heavy weapons, with orders to eliminate everyone in this household and burn it down as a message. When? Tomorrow night, during the charity gala I'm hosting. Amara stared. You're hosting a party while under threat? I'm hosting a trap. Minho's eyes glinted. 300 guests, including police commissioners, prosecutors, and judges. The syndicate won't attack during the event. Too public. They'll wait until afterward when the crowd leaves, but the house is still in chaos. They'll hit the moment they think we're most vulnerable. But we won't be. No, we'll be ready. They planned like the professionals they both were. Amara designed defensive positions based on the mansion's architecture. Minho arranged for 30 additional security personnel disguised as catering staff, valets, and cleaning crew. Jihoon would be evacuated to a secure location with Mrs. Cho 2 hours before the estimated attack window. I don't like using him as bait, Amara said. He won't be here, but they don't know that. Minho pulled up surveillance footage. Look, they're already positioning assets. They think we're distracted by party planning. Instead, every camera angle is covered, every entry point fortified, every possible approach calculated. You've done this before? My father survived 14 assassination attempts before lung cancer took him. I learned from the best. The gala itself was surreal. Amara wore a black designer dress that Minho had purchased, her hair styled, her appearance transformed from maid to guest. The cover story, family friend from abroad. No one questioned it. Rich people rarely questioned each other's companions. She mingled, smiled, and tracked every guest with tactical precision. No threats, just souls elite. Drinking expensive champagne and pretending organized crime wasn't funding half their political campaigns. You clean up well, Minho murmured, appearing at her elbow with 2 glasses of wine. You're bribing a judge, she replied, noting his previous conversation. I'm making a charitable donation to his daughter's school. If he feels grateful enough to dismiss certain investigations, that's merely coincidence. He handed her wine. How long until they come? 90 minutes after the team leader dropped. Chaos erupted among the syndicate operatives. No leader, no clear orders. Individual survival instincts overrode mission cohesion. 3 broke and ran. 4 held position, pinned by defensive fire. 5 went down under the concentrated assault from Minho's security teams. Amara moved forward, clearing positions, medical training automatically cataloging injuries. 5 hostiles dead, 4 wounded, surrendering. 3 escaped into Seoul's night, acceptable losses. Mission complete, except for one problem. We've got a 13th hostile, someone shouted. Inside the house, they breached during the firefight. Amara's blood froze. Jihoon was safe. Mrs. Cho was safe. But Seongri, Minho breathed. His head of security, wounded earlier, had been resting in the interior office, vulnerable, isolated. They ran, found the infiltrator in the main hallway, gun to Seongri's head, using him as a shield. Not syndicate standard gear, custom weapons, professional-grade body armor. Hello, Amara, the man said in Swahili. Remember me? She did. Keone, former Kenyan NIS, the one who'd sold them out in Mogadishu, the one working for the syndicate now. Let him go, she said quietly. Your problem is with me. My problem is collecting the price on your head, $3 million, enough to retire. Keone's smile was ugly, but this is better. Eliminate you and make an example that ruins the great Kang Minho's reputation. 2 birds. You were my trainer, Amara said, calculating angles, distances. You taught me to survive. And you learned too well. The syndicate doesn't like witnesses. You know their financial networks. You've seen their international contacts. You're a loose end that costs them billions if you testify." He pressed the gun harder against Sungri's temple. "So you die tonight, along with everyone who helped you?" Minho moved, subtle shift, drawing Keone's attention. Amara recognized the opening he'd created, took it. She threw her knife, the utility blade from her belt, balanced perfectly, exactly the way she'd practiced 10,000 times, and put it through Keone's right shoulder. His gun hand spasmed. Sungri dropped, rolling away. Minho's shot took Keone in the chest. It was over in 2.4 seconds. Keone fell, bleeding, dying. Amara knelt beside him. "Who else knows?" she demanded in Swahili. "How many others are coming for me?" "You'll never be safe." He coughed blood. "The syndicate has 50 operatives across 20 countries. Someone will always—" He died mid-sentence. Amara sat back, exhausted, terrified, victorious, and completely uncertain about what happened next, until Minho's hand touched her shoulder. "The phones he was carrying. My tech team will extract every contact, every communication. We'll identify his handlers, his support network, every syndicate operative he coordinated with. That's dozens of people. Then we'll handle dozens of people." Minho pulled her up, his grip strong, certain. "You're not alone anymore, Amara. You have resources now. You have allies. You have—" "You," she whispered. "Yes, me." His hand cupped her face, impossibly gentle after the violence. "You have me, and I have you, and together we're ending this threat so comprehensively that the syndicate will tell stories about the idiots who tried to target my family." "Your family?" "Jihoon loves you. Mrs. Cho respects you. My men followed you into combat tonight without question. You're already family." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "The only question is whether you'll stay." Amara thought about running, about safe houses in 3 continents, about the life she'd imagined in Lagos before everything burned. Then she thought about Jihoon's smile, about teaching a warrior stance to a boy who'd been taught he was breakable, about fighting beside a man who matched her step for step. "I'll stay," she said, "on one condition." "Name it." "You teach me the legitimate side of your business. I don't work for criminals. I work with partners in questionable circumstances." Minho laughed, genuine, surprised, delighted. "Deal. I teach you business. You teach Jihoon to be strong, and we both learn what it means to be family." "I don't know how to do family." "Neither do I. We'll figure it out together." He kissed her, soft, careful, tasting of gunpowder and promise. Amara kissed back, 12 years of walls crumbling, letting herself want something beyond survival. When they broke apart, sirens wailed in the distance. Police, inevitable, messy. "I'll handle it," Minho said. "Self-defense, protecting my property, statements from 300 gala witnesses about my respectability. This is Korea. Money talks louder than questions." "And the syndicate?" "My deep cover agent is already delivering your intelligence files to Interpol. By morning, arrest warrants will be issued in 6 countries. The syndicate won't collapse. Organizations like that don't. But they'll be too busy with law enforcement to worry about one Kenyan operative." He smiled. "You're about to become a protected witness with immunity in 12 jurisdictions." "You arranged that?" "I have good lawyers." Amara laughed, slightly hysterical, utterly exhausted. "You're insane." "I'm in love, same thing." Her breath caught. "That's fast." "I watched you fight for my son, die for him if needed. That's not fast, that's seeing someone's soul." Minho pulled her close. "But we have time. To be slow, to be sure, to build something real. A mafia boss and a former spy, that's quite the foundation. A businessman and a security consultant, much more respectable." His eyes glinted. "Say yes, Amara. Say you'll build this with me." She thought about all the reasons to refuse, the danger, the complications, the impossibility of normal life. Then she thought about Jihoon's laughter, about fighting beside someone who understood, about choosing family instead of running forever. "Yes," she said, "I'll stay, I'll build, I'll—" "Be mine? Be yours? No, be your partner, your equal, your other half," he finished. "Yes, that." They stood in a mansion full of bullet holes and blood and the wreckage of combat, holding each other while sirens screamed closer. It was the least romantic moment imaginable. It was perfect. Jihoon said his first word on a Tuesday. They were in the garden, the rebuilt, refortified, absolutely lethal garden that looked like paradise, but contained enough security technology to protect a head of state. Amara was teaching him an advanced disarming technique, patient as always when he simply spoke. Again. One word. Quiet, certain, carrying 6 months of healing. Amara's eyes filled with tears. "What did you say?" Again. Louder this time. Jihoon's grin was radiant. "Teach me again, Amara Iyama." Iyama, mother. She couldn't speak, could only gather him close, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong against hers, this child who'd survived hell and chosen to be brave. "I'll teach you everything," she promised in Korean, English, and Swahili, the languages of their blended, impossible family. "Everything I know." Minho found them an hour later, still training, Jihoon's voice a constant bright thread narrating his movements. Her partner, her fiancé now, the ring a simple black band that matched his own, watched with an expression that threatened to break her completely. "He's talking," Minho said unnecessarily. "He's been ready, just needed the right moment." "You gave him that." Minho joined them, his expensive suit somehow still pristine, despite kneeling in garden dirt. "You gave us both that." The past 6 months had been revelation. Amara had discovered that legitimate business in Minho's world meant technology investments, international shipping contracts, and real estate development that transformed Seoul's skyline. The remaining questionable operations he'd been systematically phasing out, transferring assets, building something legal his son could inherit without shame. She'd become his security consultant, officially now, with business cards and corporate registration. Her intelligence background made her invaluable in vetting contracts, identifying risks, protecting assets. The Kenyan government had even reached out, offering immunity and a consulting position that let her use her skills without the field danger. She'd declined. Korea was home now. "Appa!" Jihoon ran to his father, rapid-fire Korean explaining the day's training. Minho listened with total focus, the way he did everything absolutely, completely present. Later, after Jihoon was asleep, Amara and Minho reviewed security reports in his study. Routine now. The syndicate had collapsed under international pressure. Not entirely, but enough. No more kill lists, no more midnight panics. Just normal threat levels for someone in their position. Normal, being relative. "The Jeju Resort project needs additional security," Amara noted, highlighting sections. "Too many access points, inadequate screening protocols. Hire whoever you need, your judgment. That's an $8 million contract adjustment." "So?" Minho looked up from his own documents. "You're protecting my investments. Our investments. I trust you." Our investments. She still wasn't used to that. Wasn't used to joint accounts, shared decisions, partnership that meant actual equality. "I love you," she said, surprising herself. Minho's smile was sunrise. "I know, you reorganized my entire security apparatus. That's fluent love in your language. What's love in yours?" "This." He pulled a folder from his desk drawer. "I purchased the community center in your mother's Nairobi neighborhood, fully funded for 15 years. Youth programs, education, medical services. In your name." Amara stared at the documents. Her mother, who she hadn't spoken to in 3 years, too afraid of bringing danger to her doorstep. Her neighborhood, where she'd learned to fight in dusty streets. "You did this?" Family takes care of family, all of it. Past, present, future. Minho took her hands. I know you miss them. Your mother, your sisters, your home. So I brought a piece of it here, and I'm arranging security so you can visit, safely. The tears came then. Amara, who'd survived ambushes and betrayal in combat, who'd killed men with her bare hands, she cried like a child, for the family she'd thought she'd lost, for the family she'd found, for the impossible grace of being seen completely and loved anyway. Minho held her, strong, steady, certain. We're going to be okay, he murmured against her hair. All of us. I promise. You can't promise that. Life doesn't work that way. Then I'll build a world where it does. For you, for Jihoon, for the family we're creating. He tilted her face up, eyes fierce. I've toppled governments and built empires, Amara. Keeping you safe is easy. Arrogant. Accurate. She laughed through tears, kissed him. Let herself believe in promises she'd stopped trusting years ago. Outside the study, Seoul hummed with nightlife. Inside, a family breathed together. Former spy, reformed criminal, traumatized child, none of them perfect, all of them trying. Jihoon appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleepy eyes. Nightmare, he said in his still new voice. Amara opened her arms. The boy climbed into her lap, then gestured for Minho to join them. They sat together, improbable, impossible, absolutely real, until Jihoon's breathing steadied and sleep found him again. This, Amara whispered, this is what I was supposed to survive for. Minho's hand covered hers. This is what we all survived for. And in that study, surrounded by security reports and business contracts and the mundane paperwork of building legitimate lives, they became a family. Not through blood or tradition, but through choice and combat, and the radical act of teaching a warrior's way to a boy who needed strength. Amara Okonkwo had spent 12 years serving her country, 5 years in intelligence shadows, and 3 months running for her life. Now, finally, she was home. The dojang opened on a spring morning that smelled of cherry blossoms and new beginnings. Warrior's Way Youth Center, the sign proclaimed in Korean, English, and Swahili. Inside, Amara watched 30 children, Korean, immigrant, mixed heritage, practice the first stance she'd taught Jihoon 2 years ago. Feet wider, she called in Korean. Balance comes from foundation. Strong roots, strong tree. Jihoon, now 10 and entirely too confident, demonstrated for the younger students. His Korean was fluent again. His English was improving. He'd started learning Swahili because Iama's language is important. In the observation area, Minho sat with parents explaining the program. Martial arts for discipline, languages for opportunity, counseling for trauma. Fully funded by the Kong Foundation, his legitimate philanthropic arm that had grown to serve 12 communities. You've built something beautiful, Mrs. Cho said, appearing at Amara's elbow with tea. The housekeeper, now program director, had embraced their mission with fierce joy. We built it, Amara corrected. All of us. The center served children like Jihoon had been, traumatized, silent, needing to learn their bodies could be strong instead of just targets. Amara taught them combat as healing, discipline as self-love, strength as survival, and they thrived. After class, a mother approached, nervous, hopeful. My daughter, she witnessed violence. Like your son, she doesn't speak anymore. Can you help? Amara saw herself in this woman's desperation, saw every parent who'd ever wanted to fix what trauma had broken. Yes, she said simply, we can help. That's what we do here. The woman's relief was palpable. Thank you. They said you were dangerous, a fighter. I am dangerous. I am a fighter. Amara smiled. And I teach children to be dangerous too. Dangerous to bullies. Dangerous to anyone who tries to make them victims. Dangerous in the best possible way. By being strong. By knowing they already are. That evening, their family, expanded now to include Amara's mother and youngest sister, visiting from Nairobi, gathered for dinner. The conversation flowed in 3 languages, laughter mixing with serious discussion about politics and business and whether Jihoon was old enough for advanced weapons training. Minho said no, Amara said maybe. Jihoon campaigned aggressively for yes. Normal. Chaotic. Perfect. Later, alone on their bedroom balcony, Minho pulled Amara close. Any regrets? About which part? The combat, the near-death experiences, falling for a criminal. Reformed criminal. I'm legitimate now. Mostly legitimate. Mostly is generous. He kissed her temple. But seriously, you gave up intelligence work, gave up the field. Do you miss it? Amara thought about Mogadishu, about the girl who died in her arms, about 12 years of missions that had saved lives but cost her pieces of her soul. No, she said honestly. I found something better. Teaching strength instead of violence, building instead of destroying, creating warriors who fight for themselves, not governments or causes or corporations. And us? The family part? Terrifying, wonderful, worth everything. She turned in his arms. I've been thinking about another child. Adopting, maybe. There are so many who need... Yes. Immediate. Certain. I didn't finish the question. The answer is yes. To expanding our family, to adoption, to whatever form our family takes. Minho's expression was infinite tenderness. You taught me that family isn't blood. It's choice. So we choose. Again and again. I love you. I know. You built a youth center with my money. That's how Amara Okonkwo says I love you. She laughed, kissed him, chose him. Again. Inside, Jihoon was teaching Amara's sister a combination strike sequence while her mother watched, proud and slightly concerned. The house hummed with voices, life, the beautiful chaos of people who'd found each other against all odds. Amara had spent years running from danger. Now she stood still, surrounded by the family she'd chosen, teaching others to be strong. The Korean Mafia Boss had frozen when he saw his new black maid training his son like a warrior. But the warrior had unfrozen all of them. Thawed trauma, melted walls, transformed survival into thriving. And together, they built a world where children learned that being strong wasn't about violence. It was about choosing, every single day, to stand up and be seen, to be warriors in the truest sense, protectors, healers, builders of better tomorrows. The end was really just the beginning, and the beginning was beautiful.